and its three campaign arms that it controls, the DCCC, the DSCC, and the DLCC, are not good at electioneering, right? They are running, I mean, they rely on a consultant class too. So like to keep in mind, it's not like the people sitting in the administrative positions of the DLCC know how to run campaigns. They rely on professionals that they consult with who tell them this is what you should do to win this race, right? Or to win this election cycle. That is where they are getting steered wrong, right? That information that's coming into them is not taking into account political polarization, hyperpartisanship, the reality of the American electorate, which is a low information electorate. It doesn't know all of the things that Donald Trump is doing. It needs those things told to them. Frankly, it needs to be told that Donald Trump's children are milking their positions in government that they shouldn't have to begin with to personally enrich themselves, because they don't know that, of the debate audience, the assumption that the Biden team made that they don't need to come back with that as Hunter Biden is assaulted is such a flawed assumption, because I guarantee you at least half of that debate audience had no idea. They have no idea about Jared and Ivanka Trump's excesses in government. They don't follow the news. They don't know who Mitch McConnell is, right? And the Democrats are constantly on offense, right? So they had a messaging strategy. It was the exact same messaging strategy they designed in 2018, which is issues focused, and it's issues focused, cerebral, brain, right? Not emotive, heart and gut. Like, here's what will happen to you, to your family, if Republicans win the election. And it's usually very, very policy wonky argumentation, which is fine if you're talking to us, right? But that's not who elections are for. They're for them, the other people, these people who don't read the news, who don't find that stuff interesting. If they found that stuff interesting, then that would be a different story, right? But they don't. So they need to be spoken to on their terms, on their level. And the Republican Party inherently gets this. So for the last 20 years, they have been fine-tuning an electioneering apparatus that is just second to none, right? So on one side, you have this electioneering strategy that takes these congressional races, does what's called nationalizes them. So makes them a story for voters that is, hey, this is about control of the Senate. This little race here with this guy, John Smith, that you have never heard of and don't give a hoot about. This race, actually, if you vote in it, will save your Second Amendment rights. If you don't vote in it, they're gonna make guns illegal, right? Not even rational, right? It doesn't, like, the Democrats get caught up in, well, that's not true. Okay, that's not really something that could happen. That doesn't matter, right? Like, on the Republican side, they understand that if you tell voters that and make it high stakes, they're more apt to show up. And they understand that at the end of the day, these Georgia Senate runoffs are going to be decided based on, when you look at the electorate, the percent of Republicans that turn out and cast ballots compared to the percent of Democrats, okay? And unless Democrats equalize or come close to it, the percent of ballots cast in those races, both of those races are going to lose, okay? End of story, full stop, period. That is not how the DSCC thought about North Carolina, okay? That's not how they think about these races. They do not conceptualize them that way, which is a really tremendously bad mistake, because, if you're not focused on, like, the Stacey Abrams reality of, okay, we've got more people out there that think and feel the way that we do, but we don't talk to them. We don't register them to vote. We don't go out there and activate them. We instead run our campaigns purely on, there's a voter file, and the voter file identifies independents either by party registration, because that's a state where you register by party, or by like a modeled independent, right? And the campaign resources are devoted towards, let's win the argument amongst independents. Okay. Number one, like, it's not that you don't go into that space and spend resources there, though the more sophisticated you can be about identifying who truly is a pure independent versus one of these leaners, the better those resources can be deployed. Number two, the argument that we're presenting in persuasion is ineffective, right? We're not doing, like, we could do a persuasion, but the type of things that we argue now, that we're not winning there, right? We need a whole new persuasion argument approach, right? But beyond that, like Stacey Abrams is arguing, I'm arguing, you also need to be doing simultaneously a very robust effort on registration until the registration date cuts off, and stimulation of turnout of young people, of people of color, of women who are single, college educated people, people who fall for sure, even if they're not Democrats, they could be lean Democrat independents, because 9 out of 10 times when someone leans one way or the other, they vote for that party, right? So they're fakers, is what I said on the Daily Show when I was in there, a little bit more flourish, but they're basically fakers. They pretend to be independent, even to themselves maybe, but ultimately when they cast ballots, 9 out of 10 times, it's that party that they lean towards, right? So what we need is messaging. So like my Georgia campaign, if I can get down there, is going to, there's two different things that I'm bringing. The first one I think is going to be very effective at this particular part of the problem. And what it does is it tells the voter, you are one voter, right? And your decision to show up to vote can vote 2 senators into office. And those 2 senators will give Joe Biden control of the Senate, and with it, the ability to actually govern. Because if they don't control the Senate, there's no governing. Okay. There's nothing that's going to be happening. Mitch McConnell is going to, kill every single thing that Biden wants to do. But like with those 2 senators, you could bring health insurance back to 28 million people if the court strikes down the ACA. You could save, there's 11 million dreamers in this country. The Trump administration is so cruel. They deported this one young man to Iraq, even though they knew that he wouldn't be able to get insulin there for his diabetes. He's from Detroit, Michigan, and he died, right? I mean, that one vote, one decision to show up and vote in January, on January 5th, for these 2 Democratic senators could save millions of lives. That's how you talk. That's how you have to talk to people who are not us, who don't see or immediately understand the value of politics, of their role in the political system and their participation. You have to have a conversation with them that makes them understand why it is valuable for them to show up. And it's not some wonky policy convo about healthcare. It's about the greater, role that participation does. And here's the worst part about it. The reason that the DSCCC or the SEC or the DNC for years has refused to do this is they think that if they run ads like this, that it will make more Republicans vote. Okay. Well, I put this theory to test last cycle in 2018. It's like, okay, now I'm doing this voter file analysis. It's the hard data. I'm going to find out, is there a difference? These blue dog Democrats who were so careful not to inflame Republicans, not to talk about Donald Trump, not to talk about policies in a bold way that might get Republicans upset, did they actually hold Republican turnout down? Because in 2018, because Trump's style is all negative partisanship, unlike with the 2 Obama midterms, Republican turnout went up. It didn't go down, okay? And that's why they saved those races in Georgia and Texas and Florida, they went up. Okay. And I learned a lot. I learned that you can artificially stimulate negative partisanship, especially if you don't have an incompetent electioneering system, right?